Hello there. I am Dean, and I am joined by my teammates Drew and Leslie as we discuss our work for Project 2, Hangman. A simple game on paper, but one with a wealth of depth and background work to get working with our knowledge of PHP, CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. Our game followed a rather efficient 8-step program, the first of which was mapping out the scope of our project and what would need to be done/considered in order to make this project a reality within our given time frame. Once we knew that, we needed to decide how the game would flow, how the player would guess, what would happen when they guessed correctly or incorrectly, how the scoring would work, how such a score would be recorded, etc. With that completed, we could tackle the design and how we wanted the project to look before dividing up the work in our task assignment. With this out of the way, we could then focus on our HTML structure and the bare-bones CSS for the site to work. That way we could look at the functionalities and get those working. Then, we created and perfected those functionalities to our liking, in addition to making the CSS look better and more presentable. Much like any CS project, those last two steps always create errors, especially when combining different people's work. As such, we have an entire step dedicated to testing, finding errors, and refining our programs to create a smooth process from start to finish. Last but not least, we can submit our work to be viewed in its entirety. You can see here the table of contents for our presentation, listing the various topics we wish to discuss with you about the project. The points of focus are as follows: the home page, the guessing function, the level selection, the word difficulty function, the game page, and the hint/score function, which also includes the leaderboard.
Hey everyone, my name is Leslie and I worked on the homepage functionality. So The homepage uses HTML and PHP primarily, and the purpose of the homepage is to collect the user data so the scores are continuously updated to the leaderboard as the user goes throughout our game. So, how this is done is by utilizing sessions to save the user information, which creates a session ID for the user and saves it through a cookie. The testing that I did for this homepage was by running it through the entire game to ensure that everything was properly saved. Another testing that I was able to do was to make sure that if the user put in the wrong username or password, it would properly show them what was the issue, and also if the user decided not to register immediately and just decide to log in, it would prompt them to immediately register. And how I was able to make the homepage go to the level selection page was basically with both the login and the register buttons, automatically redirect them to the level selection page after all of the information that the user has put in is correct and fits all of the parameters that were set within this code. Hey everyone, my name is Leslie, and I worked on the homepage and its functionalities. So the homepage used HTML and PHP primarily, and the PHP was used to be able to register users and have users be able to log back in and be able to play our game. You can see here all of the code that I was able to do. And the purpose is basically to collect the user data so the scores are continuously updated at the very end when they finish playing, so it updates on the leaderboard. So this is done by utilizing sessions to save the user information, which creates a session ID for the user and saves it through a cookie. The testing for this feature consisted of running through the game to ensure that everything's properly saved. Some other testing that I was able to do was seeing if the wrong username was typed in or the wrong password, if it properly prompted the user to correct their username or password. Another one was also making sure that if a user hasn't already registered, that it would prompt them to register in order to play our game. For more clarification on the code, the register user itself is the function that registers new users by adding the username and password to the users array, and it also updates the users array in the session variable users. So once the user has successfully logged in or registered, it redirects them to the level selection page.
So the guessing function of the Hangman game is actually pretty simple. It takes an HTML form in which the user is allowed to input one character, which is supposed to be a letter, and after the user inputs and submits that, it takes that letter and it parses through the word which was selected randomly by the previous page, which would be the by the level selection. After they choose whether they want an easy, medium, or hard word, a word is selected at random, and that word is pasted into the session under the word variable. And from there, that variable, the letter that the user inputs is translated into the guess variable, and the guess variable is compared to the word variable, and basically it just parses the word to see if there's any occurrences of that letter. And if there is some occurrences of that letter somewhere, then it fills in the blank spots that are in the place of all the letters, and it doesn't do anything. It just fills that in. However, if there isn't any occurrences of a letter, then the program will update the max guesses counter, because the max amount of guesses you can have in this game is 6. And also the Hangman image is updated to showcase that you're running out of guesses. It shows that a body part has been added to the Hangman. The Hangman has the head, which is 1, 2 arms, which makes it 3, and then 2 legs, which makes it 5, and also a body to make it 6. So you have 6 possible chances to guess, and after inputting each letter, your chances will either stay the same or decrease if the letter was incorrect. So you can see here in the code, it's pretty simplistic. We were able to test this by, just trying to input, correct letters, incorrect letters, and seeing, how the program responds to it, seeing if the program, does exactly what it's supposed to do. So pretty simplistic function. And then from there, putting in the right letter, we also were able to add in the other functions, as in like, putting in the right letter makes the score go up or down, and, able to implement everything else and see if the user can effectively guess the correct word.
For the level selection page, it solely used HTML and CSS to allow the user to pick which difficulty level to play under. The A tags are used with the href attribution to take the user to the game page, PHP, and the query parameter difficulty sets to which level it is applied to in the game page PHP. And in order for the user, like when the user is playing and the images that they see are easy, medium, or hard, they're able to see that because of the image element that is used to assign the coordinating level. So the biggest difficulty that I had in making these was the actual links to take them to the following page. It was more so towards the CSS side of it instead of the actual functionality and logic. The reason for that is because I had originally put all of the PHP that would coordinate with the levels in this same page itself. What that caused was all of the level selection CSS and the game page CSS to be combined into one. It took me a while in order to figure out what was the solution for that, but it ended up just being separating the two pages. So that is the reason why the level selection page is solely HTML and CSS, because the PHP itself that I put here originally, I just made it into its own page. And that way, when the user goes to the game page, it'll call that PHP from the separate page and apply it to the game page. So for the word difficulty function, it randomly generates words based on the level selection using the array rand function. So after the user has walked through the level selection page and they choose which level they want to play in, this will prompt the system to choose within the word. So for the word difficulty function, this function defines 3 different arrays for the easy level, the medium level, and the hard level. And each of these arrays contain words that are going to be prompted to the user and their coordinating hints. So depending on the difficulty that the user selects in the level selection page, this will pass through the difficult query and go through the function and assign the user the appropriate words and hints. And the original issues that I was having with this functionality was that the word itself kept being given to the user in the order that they were listed within the array. That's why I created the array ran functionality so it could randomize it every time the user decided to play. The way that I was able to test this was by reloading the game page multiple times and selecting levels each time. It also was very important on my end to clear the cache within my browser, because if not, it would not randomize completely the selection for the users.
So the game page page of our Hangman game is probably the most important page that we have. This is the page that compiles and brings together all of the previous functions in code and kind of puts everything into the main game. This is the page where the user will spend most of their time, and this is the page that kind of implements and does everything, puts it all together into one cohesive unit. So as you can see here, there's two sections to our game page. There's the PHP section and the HTML section. Technically, there's a third section for the CSS, but it's primarily just these main two with the PHP and HTML. The PHP section, like I said before, it gathers all of the elements from prior pages and saves them into functions for them to display. There's also a new function that's introduced and created within this game page code, and that is the leaderboard function. The leaderboard function is the only function that doesn't really have a separate specific page for itself. So it's just implemented right here for ease. And the HTML displays all of these sections. So all of these, everything from the level selection, which goes to the word generator, which generates you a random word. All of that data is saved and put into the game page, so the game can, put the exact amount of like spaces for each word. And also in the leaderboard function, it knows when to save and how to, like when you log in, it knows how to put your name and the person that's logged in along with the score that's coming from this game page and all the other information like that. This is all just saved locally or in the PHP server, and all of this information gets cleared out when the session has ended. So as long as the page or the tab is still open, all of this information will stay pretty much static nevertheless, except for when the game ends. When the game ends, the score, the letters used, and the word will all disappear, so that when the user decides to play again, it can all be regenerated and brand new as if it's a fresh game. The game page also has the functions to keep track of how many guesses the user has. And every time the user gets a guess wrong, a letter is added to the letter spot and 100 points is taken off of the score. And every time a user guesses the right letter, 100 points is added to the score, and the letter is still put in the box so the user can see, what letters they've used and which ones they haven't. And also, if the user tries to guess the same letter twice, it won't penalize them at all or really have any change. It just won't do anything in case they guess the same letter twice. The Hangman visual image also updates depending on whether they get the letter correct or wrong or not. If the letter is correct, then nothing will happen to the Hangman. But if it's the wrong letter, then a different image will update of the Hangman getting a body part added to him. And after 6 attempts, the Hangman will be a full Hangman, and the user it'll change to the page where it tells the user that they got the word incorrectly, and it will tell them their score and display, all the necessary information, and it'll tell them what the word is too. But if they guess it correctly, then it'll tell them that they got it correct and they save the Hangman. So the CSS basically just makes everything look nice, styles everything, makes it come together in a visually pleasing way for the user to interact with. So there's really not too much to talk about there. This game page has literally just been tested by trial and error. Just every time a new function is added, implemented into the game page, and then a lot of refreshing and a lot of just, double checking and making sure that all of the other functions still work, because, adding one function sometimes can make another one disappear. So it's just tested by a lot of different trial and error till eventually all the functions are working the way they're supposed to be working, and it looks good, it looks nice, and all the elements are displaying, as they should be displaying.
Now let's talk about hints and score. Each generated word, be it easy, medium, or hard, has a corresponding hint pointed to in the array. The hint and word are chosen using the generate word $difficulty function from the generate word.php inside of the gamepage.php. On the actual game page, once a new game starts, the word will have been selected and the hint will be updated in its respective section to be seen whenever the user hovers over it, something I will discuss. When hovering over the hint, the background for the text will change to a darker color to make it visible on the white background the rest of the site has. This is accomplished in the CSS file for the project, where the text class A has an hover extension that changes the text background, aka giving it a highlight in the manner seen here. Next, let's talk about the scoring system, and by proxy, the leaderboard system. Whenever a guess occurs, handled in the logic of the statement here, the guess letters will be updated and the following happens. If it's wrong, the total misses increments by 1, and the score is updated with a decrease of 100 points. If the guess is correct, the score is updated with an increase of 100 points. The score is displayed and constantly updated by the code on the bottom. Doing it in such a manner ensures that the score is accurate and allows us to simply grab the most updated form of the number as the final score for the given user. Using the line of PHP you see here on the left, we ensure that the score remains accurate, and in the event something does go awry with either the number updating or the sessions itself, it will always default to 0. Now that we know how the score is collected and updated, we can discuss how it gets pushed to the leaderboard in the first place, which updates using the function to the left. This function takes 3 parameters: the username, the score, and the leaderboard itself. This will take the leaderboard in question and add the username and current score corresponding to that username in the session before sorting the table with the current listed scores and saving it, a process that I will discuss shortly. This leaderboard is then displayed using the following function, which puts the items in a table using some basic HTML in a for each loop. Now, how does this save once a session is closed, you might be asking? You probably weren't, but there's an answer for that as well. With these 2 functions, we save the current leaderboard state in a text document, one that can be loaded when a session is started next to keep a listing and lasting list of high scores. This allows scores to be saved and compared permanently rather than temporarily, which all in all is a much better solution to a leaderboard. Thank you so much for giving us the time to discuss and display our work on this project. The link to our project and all of its files is right here on the slide, so feel free to give it a look when you get the chance or if you're curious. Thank you.